and welcome back to a new devotion, Turning Points with God by David Jeremiah. Today's title is Gracious Words. It's found on page 318. Our scripture text comes from the book of Luke, chapter 4, verse 22, and I'm going to be reading that from my King James Bible. And it says, "And all bare him witness, and wondered at the gracious words which proceeded out of his mouth. And they said, Is not this Joseph's son?" Everyone knows the value of a snack as an energy booster. Half an apple or tangerine or a handful of grapes, all natural sources of sugar, carbohydrates, can be fueled or can be the fuel our internal engines need to allow us to shift into higher gear when we feel tired. The ancients didn't know the science, but they knew the value of carbs as a source of energy. Jonathan's countenance brightened, 1 Samuel 14 and 27, when he ate the honey from a honeycomb. Did you know there is something else that can refresh a tired and weary soul as quickly as honey? Proverbs 16 and 24 says, "Pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones." How many souls, even bones, quote unquote, are sick and downcast because it has been so long since they've heard a pleasant word? One of the reasons Jesus Christ was so loved was because of the gracious words which proceeded out of his mouth. Luke 4:22. People couldn't believe that an ordinary person, Joseph's son, could speak so graciously and with such a healing effect. The next time you encounter a tired soul or sick body, speak some pleasant and gracious words. It may be just what the doctor ordered. Words, those precious cups of meaning. That is a quote by St. Augustine. Well, this would kind of work into there's power, there's life and death in the tongue. That's what I was thinking about when I was reading this, was the power, the impact our words can have on people, us, and our situations. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but how many times I've caught myself talking to myself, and sometimes not in the most kind, gracious, understanding way, even though I know me, and I know maybe what I'm getting on to myself about, I didn't intentionally do on purpose, and it's like, why would I show others grace and not myself? And our words truly have impact, and they can make a situation better or worse. And I'm sure we've all at some time been in situations where just what somebody said, how they said it, made a situation, uncomfortable, just kind of made you mad, or made you feel better. Our words have so much effect on our lives. And I've not always been this way. I've told y'all before, I used to be a very unkind person. And that's not me beating myself up. That's just me. Honestly, that's me putting it nicely. I was just a rude, arrogant, obnoxious person. I didn't care if I hurt your feelings. I didn't care if you didn't like what I said. I didn't care if you did something, and you didn't mean to do it. I would lash out. It didn't matter to me because I didn't care. And, sadly, that was because I didn't have the love of the Lord inside of me. I did not have a relationship with God. I was so full of, just to put it plainly, the devil. I mean, I can't sugarcoat it. Some of y'all may say, "Oh, you weren't full of the devil." I was full of the devil. Because I didn't care if I hurt you. I didn't care if I made you cry. I didn't care if I was right or wrong. It was all about me, myself, and I. I did not care about you. And you can't be full of the Lord and feel that way. Quite the contrary, because now on the flip side of that, I care very deeply about my words and how my presence, what I say to people, how it affects them. I want it to be a positive encounter. I want it to be a positive experience, not for my glory, but for the glory of God. Because how can I sit up here, do these devotions, talk about the love of God, and act totally different than what his word says? You know, I really truly pray that anytime I'm around anyone, that they feel a peace around me, that they feel good, they're encouraged, that it's a positive experience, again, not for my glory, but for the glory of God. Because, you know, I know the change God has made in me. I know the difference in me now versus the person I used to be. It is night and day difference. It is so drastic. And I truly pray. I was with some friends yesterday, and I was praying that the Lord would just be with me and help me to be a shining light of his love. You know, help me to be kind. Help me to, you know, be pleasant. Help me to just be the best example of his love that I can be. And it was not because I thought there was going to be any issues. I enjoy being around these people. We have a great time when we're together. But I wanted to go ahead and pray and have that covering over me, because the devil will try to get in there and, you know, rear his ugly head and try to cause issues and problems. And I was trying to beat him to the punch, because I don't want that to happen. And I want people, when they come around me or when they are around me, to feel the love of God. And when they leave, I want it to be only positive things they can say because of the love of God, because of the change God has made in me. And I pray that all the time. And I want to be that positive. I grew up around some people that everything was just so negative, and you find yourself not wanting to be around those people because every time it's just so negative. I've spoke on this before on the channel, and I never want that to be other people's experience of being around me, that the first thing they think of when they find out they're going to be around me, or they run into me or whatever. I don't want it to be that dread of it's going to be negative. I want it to be a positive for God, because he's inside of me. I'm a walking, living example of the love of God. And if I'm constantly negative, or if I'm like Eeyore with the little black cloud over my head, how is that showing the love of God? It's not. Now, that does not mean that you're not going to have a bad day every once in a while. But how are you going to handle those bad days? Are you going to give in to that? Are you going to stop and pray and thank the Lord that this is temporary? Thank goodness all your days are not like this. And he's going to give you what you need to get through this day, and help me to get through this day without letting you down, God, and failing you. And I've had that happen many times. In fact, it seems like here recently, I had a good prayer meeting. I had really repented and caught up with the Lord, because I spoke in my last devotion how I'd been very neglectful of talking to God, like having conversations and just spending time with him. And so I'd had a good prayer meeting and repented, and, you know, really got to talk to the Lord. And wouldn't you know, the devil tried to ruin that, because first of all, it's so silly how he will do things. And when you step back and you understand what's going on, you can see his hand in it. But our towel rack was coming off of the wall in the bathroom. I was like, well, let me go fix this. Well, I knew I should have taken the pictures down on the other side of the wall, because I was going to be banging and stuff. Well, I didn't. And I just took a chance. And you would know that one of the little picture frames fell off the wall and it broke, and it was a vintage picture frame that I really liked. And so I had glass everywhere. Plus, I'm trying to get ready because I have a time I need to leave, and it's just like one thing after the other. And I could have let that ruin my day. I could have, like, even though it was my fault as far as like not taking the stuff down, but I could have looked at it and just been like negative about it. But instead, I just cleaned up the mess. Thank God that every day is not like this. And at least it was just a picture frame. It was nobody was hurt. There was no catastrophic damage. It was a picture frame, you know? And that is the difference in being a positive and letting the Lord help you with things that don't always go your way and are ideal. And that's so like on the bottom scale of things. I've had greater things happen, and I've still used this same mentality now that I'm in relationship with God. This is all since I've been in relationship with the Lord, not before. Before, I've had stuff like that happen, and I would have just been snot slinging my and I would have just been mad and cussing and fussing and just, you know, every negative thing that I could think of would have been coming out of my mouth. But now, and that's how I know, this is another thing I want to point out. That's how I know I'm not the same person, because sometimes the devil will try to talk to you and tell you, you're not changed. You're the same person you've always been. You're just having, you know, a moment. No, I'm a changed human being. I'm no longer that old me. The Lord has done a work in me. And it's little things like that that help me realize the change in me. And so it's kind of good sometimes to have little moments like that. It's not fun. They're not pleasant. But it's kind of good sometimes to have those little moments just to, if nothing else, do a self-check. Like how you react to things can kind of let you know maybe you're slipping. Maybe you're good. And maybe you need to work on it just a little bit because maybe you had a moment, you know, whatever. But I thank God for those moments, and I thank God for the change He's made in me, because little moments like that let me know, thank God every day is not like this. I appreciate the good days, you know, and how am I going to appreciate the good days if stuff like that happens, if stuff like that don't happen, you know? So I said it before, and I'll say it again, it's retraining our way of thinking, being mindful of what we speak, because you can speak life and death into a situation. And, you know, it's very important that we choose our words wisely. And that is in every aspect of our life, even behind a computer screen, when you are maybe commenting on a video or a photo or something. Be mindful of how you're saying and speaking, because it matters. And that's why I want, even myself, and the reason I say that is because when I'm in my comments and I'm replying back, there is no voice inflection. So I try to be very careful that no matter how the person is reading my response, that it will come across as a positive, and it's not a slam, or I'm not taking their comment and twisting it, making it a negative. You know, I'm trying to be very mindful, and that lets me know I'm changed, because there was a time I wouldn't have cared how it come across or how you perceived it, you know. And I think that also shows growth in the Lord, and growth in just maturity, because when you are more mature, you look at things a little bit differently than you do when you were a child. And you can be a grown person and still have childish like tendencies. And if you don't believe that, just go read some comments on some people's social media, you know. And I'm not saying that you have to agree with everything you see and only, you know, write positive things. There are ways that you can communicate and have a completely different opinion than someone else, but do it respectfully. You know, I have people, I have people, I've had it done both ways to me on, in my comments. I've had people disagree with me and share ideas and think, they think I should do this, this, and this, but do it so respectfully. It would be like friends sitting down having a conversation, and then I've had people just be outright rude. And it comes across, and so that's why I'm very careful in how I try to be very careful in how I respond. And I never want anyone to think that I'm being harsh or mean as a retaliation to a response, because that's not me at all anymore. Thank God. Thank God I can say that. That's not the me that I am now. The me that I am now is very concerned about my fellow man and how they feel, and very concerned in how my actions, my words affect them. And, I think that's something that we can all work on all the time. It's not one of those things that it's just a one and done. It's not one of those things that you can kind of just do it here and there, hit and miss. It's one of those things that I can only speak for myself, I constantly have to work on and exercise. And honestly, the more you do it, it's just like anything else. The more you do it, just the easier it comes to you, and the better I feel. I feel about myself. It just makes me feel like a better human. And who doesn't want to feel that way, But all of that is because of the glory of God, the change God has made in me. And how did that happen? Prayer. Got to keep praying up. Prayer. Relationship with God. That is the only way that can happen, because the devil's sure not going to want you to do that, So that's my experience, and that's what I get from this, is to just be very aware of your words. Are they gracious? Are they words that, if you were in that situation, are they words that you would like to hear? Are they words that you would like to have said to you? That comment you're typing out, is that a comment like you would like to read about you or your situation or whatever it is? Is this going to be beneficial? Is it going to uplift and encourage, or is it going to tear down and hurt? And, I try to think about all of that, when I'm commenting on other people's things, as well as when I'm responding back to comments, or just in everyday life, just talking to people in public, I just want to always be gracious and to show the love of God. And that's one of the biggest things, is my reaction or action going to demonstrate the love of God or not? And that's my take on it. I'm sure you've gotten something else out of this, or maybe you are in agreement with this, and maybe you want to add to. I really enjoy reading your take on it, your comments of how you see things and what you think, and your testimonies, because I think we can all learn from one another. We're all in this together. We're all striving for the same thing. Thank you so much for being here. I love each and every one of you. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you. I thank you for showing up time after time after time, for supporting this channel. It's growing. We're reaching people, and you just never know what your comment under a devotion. I know there are people that go and read the comments, and you just never know how the Lord will use your comment to minister to someone. He's done it for me on other channels. I can be going through comments, reading them, and the Lord speak to me through somebody else's comment. We're all in this together. We're all here to encourage and uplift, and your comments do that. They encourage me and others who read them. So thank you for taking the time to share them. I love you. I pray you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.